Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, part 2 of the Jonsered 2071. My perfect chainsaw eBay special. Got it dirt cheap, and there's a reason why. It is used, abused, wore out. Got some random missing parts, and then some random new parts, like this muffler. It has some rattling in the crankcase. I want to check the bottom end, check the squish, do some port timing, see what this saw is all about, and probably, at the minimum, replace the ring. At the maximum, see what we can do about some port mapping. Welcome to Man Time. Alright, well, I'm not going to go into a big long spiel about this saw. I've already done that in the previous video. If you missed part 1, this is part 2. And we are going to get it taken apart and look at the bottom end. The bottom end is my big concern. I've already replaced the crank seals and gone through the carb, but when I had like everything off, you know, the crank seals out and the plug out, I was wiggling the crank and there was some movement in the crank and the piston wasn't moving. It was just, there was kind of a weird rattle. So what I want to do is get the jug off and then hook up the timing wheel, time it, and check the piston. But before I do all that, I want to check the squish. So I'm going to stick a piece of solder down in here, rotate the piston around, and then see where we're at, you know, starting off. I just want some baseline numbers here, so when I do my original port mapping, I've got a starting point, and then I can see, you know, if I need to change something or I want to change something, I can do that and know where I'm starting from. So let's get set up here. Alright, well, I've got a new page in my port book that I am going to now test. Oh, jeez. Well, that's an interesting way to start the day. The squish. This solder is, let's check here. So this solder is 60 thousandths. 60 thousandths. And I didn't feel, any amount of squish there. Alright, make sure you're all the way up against the cylinder wall. Yeah, all the way. Okay, so it did squish it a tiny amount. So we went from 60 thousandths down to 5 thousandths. Well, I won't be putting this back together with a base gasket. Yeah, actually at the skinniest point there, I'm getting 45. And it's just barely squished. Like almost imperceptibly squished. But it did come down, yeah, from 60 to 45. So, at the very least, when I put this back together, it's not going to have a base gasket in there. I'm going to take the muffler off of here. You don't have to take the muffler off. You can take, you know, the cylinder with the muffler at the same time. But it's got one of those, I don't know what you call it, but like a Formica exhaust gasket. I hate those things. They're just garbage. I've got a good highway one left over from my kit where I did the seals, so I'm going to use that instead. Yeah, here's what I'm talking about. That Formica, it's already got some places where it looks like, yeah, it's cracked, and yeah. So I wanted to do that anyway. I'll just use that that new one going back together with it. And then we'll jump around to this side. looks like I can get a wrench on it down through here. Alright, I've got the 2 bolts out of the carb, got those all loosened up. Cylinder bolts not exactly tight, and a good reason you should check your Mechanic Special eBay find, right? Yeah, I mean, just not that tight. But I don't want to run the saw in a, you know, in a state where it's gonna harm the, you know, harm the cylinder. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, here is a prime example of why you don't want to run a saw, you know, at first glance. Let me see if I can get you in here and you can see what's going on inside of here. First thing to note is, like, it's immaculate in there as far as the transfers and everything. You know, the cylinder walls, very, very good. Minimal amount of carbon down in here. It's not bad. You know, it's just not bad. But I was looking and I was like, what the heck is this? I was like, it's wet down in here, and it's got like, it looks like a spot where it wasn't sealing. And then it's got a hard, it's got like a hard witness mark there where something had banged into it. I don't know. That's weird. That is weird. But anyway, so I look a little bit closer here, and look what we've got. See how that gasket is not right? Yeah. So this would have never ran. Never ran correctly anyway. This gasket was not even seated around the entire base of the cylinder. It was completely not sealed on this side. No wonder it wouldn't run. So the eBay, you know, seller said, yeah, it doesn't run parts saw, and I'm guessing that's why. But that wouldn't account for the squish. What I'm more interested in Alright, so let me get you right in here, as close as we can get in here. First thing I'm seeing, there is noticeable discoloration to the crank. Right here, all along the bottom side of it. Now, if there is up and down play, it's almost imperceptible. And I don't see any damage on the bearing itself down here. I've rotated it through, you know, all the way around 360 degrees, and I did clean it all out, blow it all out, of course, and oiled it, and it seems to be okay. I mean, it just barely seems to be okay though. And then right here, there's actually wear and damage to both the side of the crank here. Like, there was a lip around here. Well, there still is kind of a lip around here. And then on the crank itself, there's wear marks. And I'm going like, how the hell? How did I get wear marks on the inside? But look at this. Look at that. There is a huge groove, like all the way around this piston. So that's just really, why was the piston shoved so far over? Was the cylinder misinstalled at some point? I don't get it. So obviously the piston is junk. I've never seen anything quite that bad. You know, where you've got a huge ridge on there. But let's see how it fares in the cylinder. Man, that's really too bad. Because there's zero play. Yeah, the piston has zero play in the cylinder. Huh. But, I mean, I can't reuse this piston. There's just no way. I don't even understand. Like, I thought there might be something going on with the wrist pin, you know, and in this bearing. But I mean, everything is tight. I mean, this is discolored, but it wasn't. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, just doing some investigation. Like, where this is worn and where this is worn was on the side where the gasket was misinstalled. So the heat was definitely coming from that side. But why it was so far off? I mean, it could have caught the wrist pin, I guess, and started spinning. I just don't know. I don't know how that much damage could have happened. Anyways, lucky for me, I've got a new piston. So there we go. I'm going to install a new piston. That's what I'm going to do. And these rings are wore out. These rings are, like, when they can, you know, they just seem soft. And they've got a ridge where the metal is rolled over along the edge on both of them. Like, I can catch, I wonder if I can let you hear that. Yeah, it's hard to hear. I mean, it's definitely hard to see, you know. But there's a rolled edge coming off of the ring, so I'm going to need new rings anyway. So, I'm going to put this new piston in. I guess we'll never know the stock numbers. Because it's a Molly piston. And it says Molly right down in here. But it's too far. It's just too far gone. Yeah, just too far gone. So, let's get our new meteor in here. I think this is a single ring. New caber ring. Yep. And I think it's a single. So let's see what we got in the box here. Yeah, single ring. Okay. This already feels pretty light. Yeah, about the same. Let's see how this one does in the cylinder. Yeah, no movement. Smooth. Very nice. Okay. So I'm going to get this piston installed and then we'll check our numbers. Alright, so I got the piston all cleaned up. All these sharp edges, now I can just run my finger over them, you know, the nice chamfer on there. Went over with a round file and then emery cloth and got it all cleaned up. Let's get our ring installed on here. Check to make sure where that dowel is located on the top so that ring is going to seat correctly in there. There we go. Did I just ding that? Come on, man, really? Alright, tragedy averted. That must have hit something and got a little ding in it. But just with a straight edge and working it down. Got it straightened out. Okay. It looks good. I'm going to go back with the factory keepers for the wrist pin. And let's see, I think I want to go in through this side, so I'm going to put it on this side. Yeah, those are nice and tight. Okay. Just run it past that little window there. And then on this side, we can just install it back on the crank. Get our crank bearing in here. Make sure to blow it off, brake clean. And we'll put some oil on it. This is the weirdest damage I think I've ever seen on a chainsaw, though. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a piston damaged. You know, where it's, I don't know, and the crank. The actual crank was damaged. So just weird. Alright, man, well, YouTube doesn't like me uploading videos more than 18 minutes long, so I'm going to break this up into 18-minute chunks. There's a full video if you want to see this saw go from a junked out mechanic special to a running saw, but as far as the YouTube goes, they wanted an 18-minute chunk. So this is one of the parts, and you'll see the rest of the parts, or you can go back and watch the video. Whatever you do, get out there, have you some man time too.